we'll be good.
I think you are good to go.
All right. Welcome everyone this evening. Thank you so much for your patience with the technology as we get started. And I'll ask that you give me grace as we go through the evening with the slides. I'll make sure that we're able to address your questions. We have other support here, and that I have a lot of information to share with you today. So hopefully you'll get a lot of your questions answered and it'll be worth your time this evening. I just want to make sure that everyone is in the right place. This is the virtual graduate open house for our Department of Marital and Family Therapy with specialized training in art therapy. So if you're interested in that program, you've made it to the right place. Thank you. Even if you have not and you're not sure how you ended up here, please consider staying. I think you will still get something out of this evening, and whatever you intended, maybe this is the right place for you to be. And you'll get a lot of valuable information tonight. I will introduce myself. My name is Genya Young. I am a program director for the department and a clinical assistant professor. So I teach a couple of courses here and also assist with the art therapy supervision. So you'll see me in a bunch of different roles. And this evening, we're going to go through the program in detail, including the faculty, what a day would look like. In the program here, we'll go over some information about admissions, and hopefully it'll feel complete for you. So we're going to move through the slides. We have checking the chat. So if you have questions, please put them there. I am going to at the end for questions as well. Please do that. And one of our current students, Marissa, is also with us, and she will try to communicate with me those questions as we go along. But if there's something that's more kind of personal to your situation, let's try to leave them to the end, and I will answer those for you. All right. First, I'd like to introduce you to our Dean of the College of Communication and Fine Arts, this Dean Bryant Keith Alexander. This is significant for you to pay attention to, that we are housed in the College of Communication and Fine Arts. And that's important to us because the art is very central to our program here. You will be prepared in this program when you get your degree. You'll be trained and you have your requirements for both art therapy registration, but also for preparation for your license eventually in marital and family therapy. But in this program, those are not two separate tracks. We join them together. So that means your art is embedded in all your MFT courses. And we look through all the MFT theories and applications through an art therapy lens, which is very important and special about our particular program. Next, we have Helen B. Lamgarten, who's no longer with us, but she is the founder of our program. And Helen was one of the first ones who had us to start looking at art therapy as not supplemental or adjunct to other therapies, but actually started having us look at it as its own profession. Just like there's social work or marriage and family therapy, there's art therapy. So it's an entirely separate profession. And what we do here is clinical art therapy. So it's how do we apply art media, art making, the creative art process to clinical situations and settings. And then what is art therapy? I know for many of you, you may have already had some experience with art therapy in one way or another, or you just discovered it for the first time or recently. And so you're here partly to sort of understand what is this. So I'm just going to read this definition to you and then just go into a little bit more detail. So art therapy is an integrative mental health and human services profession that enriches the lives of individuals, families, and communities through active art making, creative process, applied psychological theory, and human experience within a psychotherapeutic relationship. So there's a lot there, but what I want you to get out of that is that the integrative part. So it's including the art media, the art making, the creative process. We also are including human development, counseling theories, psychotherapy theories. All of those things are embedded in the work that we do. And it's looking at the overall human experience. And then it says art therapy facilitated by a professional art therapist effectively supports personal and relational treatment goals as well as community concerns. So we're looking at the individual, the group. We also work into the community and the community systems. Art therapy is used to improve cognitive and sensory functions, foster self-esteem and self-awareness, cultivate emotional resilience, promote insight, enhance social skills, reduce and resolve conflicts and distress, and advance societal and ecological change. So again, we're looking at the whole spectrum of the human experience and when and where art therapy techniques can be applied and where art therapists work. So it's like the breadth of that when we're looking at art therapy as a profession. Some other places I wanted to mention that where you'll see art therapists working. We're in hospitals, we're in community centers, we're in schools, we're in residential facilities, substance abuse facilities. I usually say anywhere you can find people, you can find art therapists working in many different ways. So hopefully within that, you find a place for yourself. There's something that resonates for you, you have affinity with. Let's go on. All right. We have art therapy is a time to draw what's on my mind, quote by a 9-year-old client. Put this up here, when I mention here, oftentimes when we talk about art therapy, the assumption may be that we work with young children, and many times that we do. But we work with people from all ends of the human development. We do 0 to 5 children, school-age children, adolescents, adults, older adults, and we work in different models. We work one-on-one with clients. We work with couples, parent and children together, families, do group art therapy, and also go into communities and do community or system-wide opportunities in art therapy as well. So there's many people who can benefit from art therapy. Okay, now we're going to go a little bit more be more specific about what art therapy training looks like here at Loyola Marymount University in our department. So our department integrates art therapy and family systems orientation informed by psychodynamic perspective. So the important part of that is the systems part of it. So we look at the individual within a whole system, whether it's within the familial system, the community system, systems of oppression. We look at the relational systemic context of the person that we're working with in this. And look at our program that way too. How do we fit within the larger school, communication and fine arts? Where do we fit inside the LMU community? Where do we fit inside the larger community of Los Angeles and beyond too? So we're also very reflective about the work we do and how do we see our roles within all these varied systems. We embrace multicultural focus throughout the curriculum. You'll hear a lot when you come in. We talk about cultural humility as our foundation. And really what that's about is it's encouraging a reflective process. Again, reflective process, how to reflect as individuals, as educators, and as a department in the work that we're doing here and out in the community as well too. It's about encouraging an attitude of openness and curiosity in our work, and ongoing learning is really key for how we function here. Our program is approved by the American Art Therapy Association. So that's where you would go after you complete your program here and do your hours and other works after graduation. You would apply for an art therapy registration with the American Art Therapy Association. So that's one credential that you'll be preparing for. A separate credential is for the Marriage and Family Therapy, and that's approved by the California Board of Behavioral Sciences. So when you get your degree from here, you will be set up to start the next phase for both of those credentials. One other thing I want to mention too is like for the art therapy part. So art therapy, you would eventually be a registered art therapist. Here in California, you can be a registered art therapist, board certified art therapist. There are, when you go to other states, and that's kind of like a national credential. When you go to other states, you will find that art therapy is more a standalone profession, meaning that they'll have a license in art therapy. So those are things we can talk about a little bit more later as well. The other thing is it says California Board of Behavioral Sciences. That means when you eventually become licensed as a marriage and family therapist, and that's after graduating, after you accumulate your direct client hours beyond your degree, that license is specific to California. And I mention that because if you plan to return to another place where you currently reside outside of California, or you plan to move somewhere else after California, after you complete your program here that's outside of California, you do want to do that research before starting that program to see if you are able to work in that other state or other country with your license or with your degree from California, because it is California specific. It is possible, but you need to check in with other states and other countries' laws and regulations. Okay, here's a little picture of we're housed in University Hall on campus. It's a very beautiful building. You'll see here our entrance to what we call our suite. And now we're going to talk about narrow into more specifics. So first, let me introduce you to our faculty. Again, we're very lucky here for our program at LMU to have a very prestigious and active faculty. And I'll introduce you to them individually, but each of our faculty members, we're very fortunate that they're very active in research. They work across disciplines. So even within the university, they're working with other faculty and professors that are in other departments and have a lot of partnerships and collaborations that they also include students in as well. Outside of the university, they're involved in a lot of research and publications and writings of books as well that are used by other programs across the country. But also they're very active in the community through speaking engagements, again, through other community partnerships, through a lot of advocacy work. Even in our art therapy professional organizations, which I will introduce to you later, many of them have taken on leadership positions in that as well. In fact, we just had our art therapy conference, and that's from the American Art Therapy Association, for the first time in a couple of years, was here locally in San Diego. And many of our faculty members here and our students were actually presenters at that conference and had a big place in that. And some of them were even coordinating the conference as well. So you have a very active faculty here and a lot of rich resources. Let me introduce you to our chair, is Dr. Lavinia Jackson. She does a lot of research in cultural humility, which I mentioned before, but also the application of cultural humility in art therapy. And it's really, she's kind of spearheaded a lot of changes and moving forward in reflection on our current curriculum, as well, that's been really positive and a really positive change for us as well too. Let's see what else I want to say about her. The other person, well, I introduced myself earlier. So I'm the current program director and clinical assistant professor. So I teach one of the courses here and help with also art therapy supervision for our trainees. And then we have Dr. Jessica Bianchi. Dr. Jessica Bianchi comes to us with a background in education and social justice, so educational leadership and social justice. So she really is big about how art therapy enhances educational systems. And she also does like a lot of community-based practices and work. And in addition to that, she's the director of our Helen B. Landgarten Art Therapy Clinic, which I will also talk about a little bit more later. So many of our faculty have many different roles. And thanks to her and her team, there's a lot of opportunities for many different experiences and engagement in the community through the clinic. And that's usually where you'll have your first internship experience as well. Then we have Dr. Joyce Green. And Dr. Green, what she brings to us is that she has her PhD in international psychology, and she's also the director of our Art Therapy Research Institute. So, and again, we'll go into more detail about that, but she is the leader in our Art Therapy Research Symposium. We have a research journal, and helping to support, all our faculty are helping to support our students with their own research interests, but also keeping connections with alum and postgrads who want to do research as well, but would like some support with that. Then we have our newest member to the faculty is Dr. Marusa Richo Joyner, and she's our clinical assistant professor. She also comes to us with her an educational background in international psychology. She's also very active in her practice and doing therapy herself out in the field, and brings that clinical lens to our department as well, and has helped us have really positive changes to our coursework, and again, how we engage with students and how our students are engaging out in their clinical work in the community. In the future, there'll be another opportunity where they have a faculty showcase, so you can learn more about their work and their research at another time, or also just reach out to them. The other lovely thing about our faculty here and being a smaller department is that everyone is really hands-on and accessible too. So that's kind of a highlight of being here. The other person you will want to know is Kathleen Vogel-Richmond. She is our practicum coordinator. And when I say practicum, what we mean is your actual first clinical experience. You can think of it as an internship. So you will have 2 in your time while you're in the program. And we'll talk more about the practicum later. But what's really unique about our program and what Kathleen brings to it is that she will interview you, talk with you about what your interests and needs are. And she really tries to help you make the right fit for your first experiences. That being said, we also encourage you that if you come in thinking there's certain type of work or a certain population or people you would like to work with, that while you're here as a student, you maintain an open mind and try new things. So she will work with you one-on-one with that. And the other thing is, not many programs will actually assist you in setting up practicums or internships. In most programs, you have to do that on your own. Here, we make those connections for you. And so she has a long list of partnerships and collaborations she's made with different agencies across Southern California so that our students have a place to get their hands-on experience. And then a person you may know already and they have first contact with when you're reaching out and asking questions about the program is Lori Gloyd, who is our Senior Administrative Coordinator. All right, so once you're here, what does it look like? And what do? Like the day to day, it's really important to know too. Like, what does this actually look like to be in an MFT and art therapy graduate program? All right, here, this picture, you see Dr. Bianchi there and one of our other art therapy supervisors, Ingrid, in our studio space that's in the suite. Okay. So the other thing I want to mention before I go into like the actual day to day is we have two program tracks. One is called a 2-year program track, and the other one is a 3-year program track. So it means you would, in the 2-year track, it's usually 2 years and a summer because there is one required summer session that you must take. The 3-year track, you just complete the same requirements. It's just spread out a little bit more over 3 years. The work is not less, but sometimes the 3-year program is preferable to those who may have other responsibilities or needs or need to work. And so they may come to school, and I'll show you an example, 2 days a week versus 3 days a week. And was there a question? I thought I may have heard a voice. No? Okay. So the first year, first semester, what does it look like? So that's what we're in right now. So our school year, we start in the fall and go through the summer. We usually start about mid to end of August, and then the school year ends early May. And then summer session starts around May and ends, both of them end by July. So then you have a month off before the next year begins. So here's like the first semester, your fall semester. You would have on Tuesday your art therapy studio, theory and practice. So that's where you actually start to use different art materials and media. It's a lot of art making, and think about how you would use those in different practices. Then we have introduction to mental health services, like what are these different systems and places that we work with? What kind of providers do we usually collaborate or coordinate with? And what does this work actually begin to look like? So you get an introduction to that. And then on Wednesday, you have art therapy literature and research. So then you're just beginning to learn about statistics and research. There'll be another opportunity later where you actually start to do your own research. So these are more just foundational courses. And then we have the fundamentals of marriage and family systems and law and ethics. And what's great about how we integrate the law and ethics through all of our, most of our courses is that it will prepare you for the law and ethics exam that you'll be required to take post-graduation. Then we start with child art psychotherapy, theory and practice. And then on Thursday, you have psychopathology and psychopharmacology. And those courses too are also usually, we have an actual psychiatrist that'll come in and help teach that class as well, because you'll be working with psychologists and psychiatrists out in the field. And then we have psychological tests and art therapy assessments. So back to the psychopharmacology part. So prescribing prescriptions and things like that, that's out of our scope of practice, but you still need to be able to understand what your clients are taking have been prescribed. And psychological tests, usually those tests are done by a psychologist. You would not be doing them, but you need to be able to interpret and understand them to help treat your client or develop treatment plans. And so we integrate that into the course. And then there's group psychotherapy. For many of us, your first job or internship will be doing a lot of group work. So we prepare you for that early on. And then the other thing to mention, sometimes the question is, how long is a typical day? It can go anywhere from 8 a.m. to about 3 p.m. or 9 or 10 a.m. to about 5 or 6 p.m. in the evening. Okay, so we're still in your first year, first semester, and you'll have many different fieldwork opportunities. So I mentioned earlier about the child psychotherapy class. So part of this is actual like experience and not just theory and books. That's the other thing about this program. It's going to be very hands-on experience. So we've been working with Dolores Mission School for a long time. And so we take our students out there to do observations so that you see what does, and observations in a place where children are and where they're learning, and where they're, interacting with each other, and get to understand the different age of developmental levels through observation, and also, be able to provide some like art is therapy work or just art tasks in the classroom as well. That kind of enriches your experience. Okay. So now we're going into the first year, second semester, so in the spring. Okay. So then on Tuesday, so our classes are usually Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So in the second semester, you're only going to have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays because this is when you do your first practicum. And remember, I said your practicum is like an internship, and it's 16 hours a week. And sometimes people are a little bit nervous about that. How am I going to go out in the field already? You are very well prepared and supported through that. You're provided clinical supervision on site. You provided a separate art therapy supervisor by the department. So there's a lot of support. And again, these are practicums that we have set up that Kathleen has already started partnerships and collaborations with. So they're ready for you to be there to support you and to train you and give you as much supervision and training as possible. So because of that, there's 2 days in the classroom. So we start with theories of marriage and family therapy. So again, these theories are continuing, but we get them a little bit more deeply and more expansive. Then move from child to adolescent art psychotherapy. So now we're going across the human development spectrum, right? Then we have marriage and family observations, telehealth, and contemporary practice. So what happens as well, too, some of our courses change as the requirements by the Board of Behavioral Sciences changes. So we make sure we're always up to date and that our students who are graduating are always prepared for the new requirements, the new laws and regulations. And telehealth became one of them recently. And thankfully, because we have our own clinic here, that a lot of our students were able to continue working even through the pandemic. They were able to work virtually and get training on how to provide telehealth services. And so that's continued as well. Then we have on Thursday of marriage and family therapy issues and applications. So again, we're continuing that systems theory. And then you have art-based exploration of diversity, equity, and inclusion in clinical treatment. That's one of our newer courses that we're having. And that one is about looking at our role as art therapists, as activists, looking at our work of artists as artists or art and art therapy, as social engagement, as social justice, and adding that other dimension or lens to how we operate in our community and the world. And then you have trauma theory and treatment, suicide assessment, and prevention. So again, this is another course that's changed recently so that we are up to date with the new requirements, that you have suicide assessment and prevention. So you'll already have all of that before you graduate, and all set to go. And then as I mentioned earlier, you would have your first practicum this year. Then in second semester, so in addition to your practicum, just like the Dolores Mission School, we find other places to visit, extend our work, make a contribution, but also to expose our students to different populations and different work settings. So you have as much experience before you leave here as possible. And these change all the time too. So we keep expanding or increasing or changing over things. So one is for juvenile hall, and this is part of the adolescent psychotherapy course. So this would be the field experience for adolescent psychotherapy. So students meet with incarcerated adolescents in the juvenile justice system. And then this chart I'm going to skip. It's just kind of what that's referring to is we try to have you exposed to as many different experiences as possible, also so you can learn to address, confront, learn to be with some anxieties you may have about working with different populations, or your perceived limitations in working with different populations or different settings. So the more opportunities you have to get exposed to those different things, you get to be engaged in conversations about that, and just get exposed to a broader variety of experiences to add to your education and learning. Because for what we're doing here is not just knowledge based, but how we're training you is how do you apply this knowledge in theory out in the world. So here, we're still in the first year. It's packed already, isn't it? Second semester and talking about your first practicum. So we have practicum supervision 1. Again, that's going to be your art therapy supervision. You go for about 15 weeks, 16 hours per week. Typically, you're working with children, adolescents, adults, and older adults. Again, most of your first practicum is done through the clinic. And I'll explain this a little bit later too. But when we say the Helen B. Langarten Clinic, our clinic is out there in the community. It's not necessarily a physical space. So the clinic goes wherever the work is needed. But it's through our relationships in the clinic that most of our students get placed. A lot of times it's school-based work, but not in the first practicum, not necessarily only school-based work. There's some work in hospitals and other placements as well. When we're looking at our first practicum, we're looking at really like short-term treatment because you're not with your clients for very long. But that's also a method of working. And so it's something to get used to or trained in. What do I do when I only get to see my clients for a very short amount of time? What does that work look like? And again, you have an on-site MFT clinical supervisor, so you're gaining those hours for your MFT, but you also have an off-site art therapy supervisor provided by the department, so you're also getting your hours towards your art therapy credential. Okay. So here is a video. I'm not going to show the video for sake of time here, but I'm going to ask Marissa, make sure before we leave, to add this and a link to another video in the chat so you can watch that. This one will just tell a little bit more from the student's perspective about what their first practicum experience is like. So I really encourage you to take a look at that video. And then there'll be another one too that's just talking about the department in general. All right. So let me just make sure I'm on, not leaving anything out you might need. Okay, on track. So I'm pretty good with time too. Okay, so the summer session, fun part. Like I said, the school year, the academic calendar ends around the first or second week of May. The summer session starts soon after. You have one summer session that's required, and I'm going to show you that, and another one that's optional. So in the summer session courses that are required, it's the drug, alcohol, and addiction recovery treatment. And each of these is just a couple of weeks long. And then there's the aging and long-term care. And I believe in the aging and long-term care, they now have added a field component, meaning there will be another placement that you will go visit as well outside of the classroom. And then here's our optional program, but if you can do it, encourage you to do so. This is our international program. And I forgot to mention earlier, Dr. Joyce Green is also the person who is in charge of the director of our international program that we've had exist here for many years. It's actually one of the reasons why I chose to come to this particular program, was so that I could participate in this. So it's in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. It's a collaboration with the Instituto Allende in San Miguel, and it's designed to broaden the experiences of LMU students with art therapy training. So it has included Mexican students that are participating in a certificate program in art therapy there. And then there's courses and other experiences that you also have while you're there. So some of the classes that you do get credit for is multiculturalism in art therapy and international practice. There's multiculturalism in art therapy, international practice field work. So there is an opportunity to actually practice art therapy there, or really provide a therapeutic art experience in a different placement there alongside um, other students or therapists from Mexico. And then there's also a family art therapy and international practice component. The summer session is about 2 weeks long. Um, you can also do language studies while you're there as well. And it's really a unique experience and opportunity that we provide. I believe last summer was the first time we were able to do it again after a few years as well. So, and then the other question, actually, I want to make sure I address about this one, is usually people asking, well, how, is that covered in other assistance I may be getting with my tuition? And really for this, what you would need to pay for is for travel and for airfare only. Okay, so now we're in the second year. You've made it through your first year when everything is all brand new and you're a little bit more settled in and more confident. And here we are in our second year, third semester. Okay, so in the second year, you now are only taking classes 1 day a week. And that's because this is when you start your second practicum, but your second practicum is a long-term practicum, meaning it's going to be for the entire academic year for the fall and spring semester. So you'll stay in the same placement. This will be a new placement from your first practicum. And this one is about 20 hours a week. And again, you'll go through the same process of talking with our practicum coordinator about placement and what will work and be the best fit for you. You will have a short interview with that placement and get your training through them. And you'll make your arrangements for your schedule with whoever is at your specific placement. So all of that is coordinated with whomever you're working with. And as far as your courses, that's when you take cultural considerations in art psychotherapy. So now you have a little bit more field experience, direct client experience under your belt from the first practicum. You come in with a lot of questions and things about like, what else is there to think about the work that I do, and considerations to take in. So this, we get to, expand our conversation a little bit more, and again, really start to talk about those principles of cultural humility and how we actually applying them in our profession overall. And then we have the marriage and family art psychotherapy clinical study. So again, we're going through those system theories in another way, and then a research methodology class. So this is when you also begin, you'll be required to do a research project while you're here. But what's different here is that you do your research, you have over the whole second year to work on it. And you'll be working with teams. So you'll be working with your fellow students on your research. It's not something you have to do on your own. A lot of the work is divided up based on your strength and interest. And you'll also be working with and under the supervision and advisement or consultation of a faculty member. So again, you get a lot of support with this. And whether or not, you're coming into this particularly interested in research yourself, it is an opportunity where many of our students have eventually had their papers published as well too, or have gone on to present their research in other places. So it's a great opportunity, whether or not it's a particular interest of you long term, you get to have that experience as well. Okay, so the second practicum, here's just a picture of one of our many different placements that we have. And in the second practicum, it's not mostly school-based. I mean, there's all different types of placements where our students work, like I mentioned earlier, all the different places where our therapists work, whether it's hospitals, community mental health agencies, residential facilities, substance abuse clinics, anything you can think of. We have many of the opportunities to have internships there. So again, this time it'll be for 30 weeks because it's both the first and second semester or fall and spring. working 20 hours per week. And this time we're doing a long-term treatment model. And again, you will have lots of support. You have an on-site clinical supervisor provided by the agency or placement where you work, and you have an off-site art therapy supervisor provided by our department. So you don't have to find supervision on your own at all. And then I'm just going to kind of skip this slide because it's not that readable, but this is just listing, and I can share with you separately via email if you're really interested, some of our many, many different placements across Southern California. And this list doesn't even include all of them. So now we're in the final semester of your second year. You've made it this far, and this is what it will look like. So again, you'll only have classes on a Tuesday. Your day starts about like 9 o'clock till maybe about 5. So it is a full day of classes either way. And now you have assessment and intervention and intimate partner violence, abuse assessment, reporting and treatment. Then we're talking about human sexuality, couples work, and adult psychotherapy. So we went through child, adolescent, now we're focusing on adults. You have a studio course of professional ethics and identity, and then research. And again, the research is not necessarily at this point a class that you're attending. This is more independent work because you've already kind of started at the first semester, and you're just meeting sometimes for consulting with the faculty member. But it's not necessarily a classroom you have to sit in like the other ones. And then again, you're just continuing your same practicum. Now, earlier, I mentioned that there's a 2-year program track, which most of our students go into the 2-year track. That's the most popular one. But again, there could be benefits to the 3-year track depending on your circumstances. It's still a lot of work, but it's sometimes the spacing of the courses help some of our students a little bit better who may be in different circumstances. The other thing that's different or to be aware of about the 3-year track, so you will start, we call it cohorts. So again, a cohort here is about 18 to 22 students. That means those are the students that you start the program with and finish with, and you take all your classes with the same group of students that you come in with. If you are in the 3-year track, because of the way classes are spaced out, you may start with one cohort that you started the program with, but eventually you'll then be taking classes with the second cohort and graduate with them. So you won't necessarily graduate with the same group of students that you started with. But what that means is that you get to know even more people, and that can be an advantage as well. So you don't just know one cohort, you know 2. And because you want to, while you're here, also grow your art therapy community, and you get more opportunities to do that. So I'm just going to do a quick review. What would it look like if you were choosing to do the 3-year program? And you would choose which program you want to do before you start. So in the 3-year program, instead of classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you would only have classes the first semester on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I won't read through all the different courses. I just want to show kind of the layout of them. And then the second semester, you'll have classes on Tuesday only, and you can see some of the classes listed there. And again, the difference is if you're in the 2-year program, your first semester, you're taking 8 classes that whole semester. In the 3-year program, you're only taking about 4, actually 5 classes to begin with. Then we move over to the other side of the slide for your second year, third semester. You only have classes on Thursdays. You can see them listed there. And all of this information is on our website as well. So don't worry about absorbing this now. If you go to our website, all the classes are listed for the second year program, or sorry, the 2-year program and the 3-year program. You can find everything listed there for what your schedule would look like. Fourth semester, again, we have classes on Thursday, and that's when you would begin your practicum. So in the 2-year program, you start your practicum in the spring semester of your first year. And in the 3-year program, you're starting your practicum not until the second year in the spring semester. And then you have your summer session, so everything just starts a little bit later. Then you're going into your 3rd year, and you start to do your research that 5th semester. That's when you also start your second practicum that will continue until the spring. Okay, we're almost just about there. And we will still have chance for questions. So again, I was talking about the Helen B. Landgarten Art Therapy Clinic, and you see a picture of a little door there. Behind the door is actually not the clinic. It's our department library. And I mentioned that because, again, I want you to remember and think about our clinic is out there in the community. It is not a space. It's not a physical space. The clinic, we go to wherever the work is, and that includes spaces here, even on campus. I'm going to tell you about some of those here, and off campus as well. So a few of the projects or places where we work and have partnerships or collaboration is one is Thomas Riley High School. So there we offer individual and group services for pregnant and parenting teens who are trying to complete their education. We have the family art assessment that we make available. Again, this is where a lot of our practicums for first year students go through our clinic. And in our practicums, we serve a lot of our school-based program is for underserved schools. Then one of our newer placements where we work is a collaboration with the LMU Law School, and it's the Loyola Center for Conflict Resolution. So we actually bring art or art therapy to the collaborative divorce process. So we get to work with families at that stage and when they're going through that. Another thing we have is with Cedars-Sinai Hospital, that's here in Los Angeles. There's a group an art therapy group for cancer patients and cancer survivors where we work as well. We also have a long-standing summer arts program. So it's a week-long therapeutic art workshop that focuses on positive cultural identity with middle school students. So you may see some of the images from that actually on our website. And if you want to know more about these things, again, I'm going to show you where on the website you can find more information, but also on our social media pages. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram page that you can look at for updates as well, as far as like what are we up to as a department, where our students and faculties working, and where are they making a difference. And then for those of you who are interested in research or at least want to try your hand at it while you're here, again, we have our own Art Therapy Research Institute that is run by Dr. Joyce Siep Green. The Art Therapy Research Institute supports interdisciplinary, intercultural, international, interfaith, and interinstitutional projects. We have our visiting scholars. We have faculty talks. In fact, we've already had a few this semester already. We have the Art Therapy Alumni Research Collective. That's what I mentioned earlier, as far as like, even after you graduate from the program, you're still connected to the department in various ways. And one of those ways is if you are still interested in research or you're thinking about writing, you get that support here through the collective. We have our own Journal of Clinical Art Therapy that we publish. And then there's an annual research symposium. And along with that symposium, it's usually some type of art show or art exhibition as well. Ooh, and then for the fun part, like, how do I do this? So hopefully you're still interested in being part of the program or curious to have more questions. But now we're kind of looking at, well, how do I begin to apply? Okay. So I'm going to go through some of the prerequisites here because this is usually where we have the most questions. And again, all of this information is spelled out on our website. In fact, all applications now are online, so you will need to visit our website anyway in order to apply. So we have prerequisites in art and psychology. And before I go into that, I want to say Our students that come into the program are usually coming in from all different kinds of life experiences. You may have someone who's coming in straight from undergrad. You may have someone who hasn't been to school or worked in a number of years, and now are just have discovered art therapy, or this is their path, and are now deciding to get their degree in this. You do not have to have a bachelor's degree in art or psychology or related field to apply to this program. You do need to have completed a bachelor's degree, and you do need to have completed the prerequisites. And the reason we have that is so that no matter where you're coming from or where you're starting coming into the program, because we will train you once you're here, we want to be able to have everyone start with some type of a similar foundation. And so the prerequisites in art is a minimum of 18 semester hour credits or 27 quarter hour credits in of study in studio art, which demonstrates proficiency and discipline commitment in art making. So again, our whole profession is about art making. So we want you to come in with you don't have to be a fine artist or have a degree in fine art, but we need to know that you have some experience with different art materials, that you feel comfortable using them, because these are our tools that we use with our clients. So you want to come in with some knowledge of that or some experience with that. Then there's prerequisites in psychology. Again, you need that foundation, even though we're going to expand on all these things once you're here. And that's a minimum of 12 semester hours or 18 quarter hour credits of study in psychology. And that must include developmental psychology. So under that, it could be a child, adolescent, or they might call it a lifespan class. That's fine. Is one of them must be that. And the other one must be abnormal psychology. The other prerequisite is that these courses must be taken within 5 years and must be for a letter grade. So when you apply and list these courses, you are going to be asked to show that these courses were completed for a grade and at an accredited institution. If you're not sure, you can email us and we will look through the course description and figure that out with you. Sometimes some exceptions can be made for the 5 years, but again, you would have to send in all the information about that course and let us look at it. And the reason why we have the 5 years in there, I know for a lot of us, it's maybe been longer that since we've been to school, but we had that so that we just want to make sure that what you're coming in with is the most updated information in the field of psychology, at least as much as possible, so things are always changing. But we just want to make sure that some of the information coming with is not too far out of date. Is why we have that number out there. The art courses don't necessarily have to come from an accredited institution, but you may want to check with us about that too, if there's other places where you've taken those classes, to make sure they're okay. I think I already answered that. So yes, you'll be asked to document that you've completed the courses for a grade on official transcripts sent to graduate admission. Okay. So here are some other things. And just want to make sure this is the most important part. So I want to make sure I'm checking my notes to make sure I answer or address everything on here. So one is you are required to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university. Priority review is given to applications with a completed degree posted prior to applying to the program. So this priority review will be given to those. There may be or in the middle of finishing your bachelor's degree while our deadline for the fall is November 20th. And in fact, we only take applications for fall semesters. So for fall 2024, you would need to submit your application by November 20th of this year. But that being said, if your bachelor's degree will not be finished by November, but it will be finished before the fall 2024 semester begins, you would just note that in your application and let us know that your plan is to have your degree completed by then. testing for the GRE is now optional, but we also say that sometimes we've had different things happen in our undergrad, or other things were going on, and maybe we don't have like the highest GPA, or our transcripts don't look that great. Another way to show that you're ready for the graduate program is perhaps in that case, consider taking the GRE. Again, it's not required, but it's another way to show that you're ready for this work if your transcripts and other information is not as reflective of what you're able to do. And then you are going to be asked to give 2 letters of recommendation. When you apply online, you'll be asked to give the name and email address of the person that you plan to ask for the letter of recommendation. And you will send an email to complete and submit the recommendation for letters. Everything will go through our online process, and you will just have to share the name of the person who's doing the recommendation and their email, and we will notify them. So you will want to let them know to look for that email and ask them first, of course, before you share their email with us. The other requirement is an autobiography. And it says with 10 to 12 pages with emphasis on pivotal personal life experiences and references to psychological understanding. Okay, so this is an important part, because part of the admissions process is we want to know who you are. We want to know your story. Again, each person that comes into this program has a unique experience that we strongly value and see you as a contribution to our department and to this field. So we want to know, tell us what you want us to know about you. And this is your opportunity to do that in your autobiography. If there's some things, again, that you're having to submit, you're like, oh, I don't know what they're going to think about that. My grades were not so great. Here's your opportunity to explain that if it's necessary, or another way for us to get to know you. So you really want to give some thought to that autobiography. The other part is a portfolio and statement. So this is your art portfolio. We're asking for up to 10 images showing a variety of media and a 300-word statement for just one of the images. So again, part of the portfolio is that we want to get to know you. So you self-select what images you want to show us. We ask for a variety of media because you're going to be using different media with your clients and in your coursework. So we want to know, again, not that you have the strongest skills necessarily in every single media that's out there. Maybe you're not the greatest painter or ceramicist, but we want to know that you have a comfort level with using these different things. The reason why we ask you to write a statement about one of the images is because we're not that interested in the aesthetic qualities of your art that you show us, or the skill. What we're most interested in is, are you able to talk about the personal, psychological, emotional quality of your artwork? Because again, that is the work that we do. That is the work that we're asking clients to do, to talk about their imagery and use their imagery to express themselves in very specific ways. And we need to know that you feel comfortable to do that as well. So this is your place to do that. And you get to pick the image that you want to use for that. Another thing is the online interview. So this will be embedded in the online process. So when you go to our website, click on the online application, it will take you through all these steps, show you where to submit certain documents, but then there'll also be a place where you can record your interview. There'll be a series of questions that'll kind of guide you to let you know what we want you to speak to. You can re-record it if you get the chance to review it and re-record it as necessary before you submit it. If you advance in this process, this is all phase 1. So if you advance in this process, then you will go on to a group interview, which will be online. And I will talk about, and actually I'm realizing it says it's on campus. That is actually not accurate. We have changed that the interview will be virtual. The group interview will be virtual. And in that interview, we really want to see your dynamics with working with other people. We want to see your dynamics with working with art and talking about art with other people, because art making will be part of that process as well. And then another step to the application is a prerequisite checklist. And again, so that's just a list where you check off the studio art requirements and the psychology requirements. There's two things I want to kind of highlight and be very specific about, because I think there's mostly a lot of confusion around this part of the admissions process. And again, just checking my notes to make sure I say this to you. So you must have your autobiography, your video, meaning the online interview, and the portfolio and statement must be complete before we can even review your application. So if you don't have your autobiography, you don't have your portfolio and statement, you don't have your recorded online interview. I mean, you should have everything, but if you don't have those things, we can't even review your application. As far as the prerequisites, we understand that some of you may be just taking those prerequisites now and may not complete them before the November 20th date. That is okay, but in the prerequisite checklist, you need to write what your plan is. What courses have you already completed and submitted documentation for that? But what courses are you enrolled in and plan to complete? When will they be complete? It's helpful for us to know what your plan is in regards to that. And you really want to be thoughtful and realistic too about whether or not you'll be able to complete all those requirements before the school year begins as well too. So, I mean, it looks better if you have all of these things done, but there have been some exceptions where people have been very persistent and have made it work and gotten everything done on time. But again, if you don't have the, and again, I should include the letters of recommendation as well, those should be complete. But if you don't have the autobiography, portfolio, and statement, or recorded interview, we cannot review your application at all to move on to the second phase. The other thing I wanted to mention as well too is there's a lot of interest in the program. So you also don't have to wait until November 20th, that exact day, to submit your application. If you have everything prepared and complete, you can submit your application earlier than the 20th. So please go forward and do that if you want to. And also just be aware when you're going through the online process, once you hit, I've been told once you hit submit on there, you can't go back and reopen it and add things to that. So the application will stay open till you have everything in there, but once you hit submit, you can't go back into it and add things like that. So you just want to make sure your application is complete before you hit submit. All right, so here again is just talking about the online application that I was sharing with you that's connected to our website. Just remember some things you want to make sure is you want to click online application, and then you want to look, the program is listed under College of Communication and Fine Arts. You want to make sure you look for that. There's another psychology program here. That one is not ours. You want to make sure it's housed under a different school or department. So you make sure you look at College of Communication and Fine Arts and make that selection. Then you want to select a degree, Master of Arts in Marital and Family Therapy with specialization in art therapy, to make sure you're completing the correct application and know what's required. Again, it's mentioning here, I told you earlier, we suggest that you have your recommenders' email addresses, your autobiography, your portfolio images and information, and prerequisite course information on hand when you start the application. You will need to input or upload these items. You may leave and return to the application at any time before you submit. So you can go in and out of it before you submit, okay? But you want to make sure you submit and complete your application by or before November 20th. And again, you do not want to start the application process on the 20th. So please do not do that to yourself. You want to plan ahead for this. It's a lot of different things. It may take longer than you think. You want to start collecting this information and submit it, or have it ready to submit before the deadline on November 20th. And this deadline is for entry into the program for fall 2024. All right. Oh, again, so I mentioned the virtual group interview. it says date to be announced here because it's not put in the calendar yet. But if you want to plan for that, it's typically the first or second week of February is when that interview would happen. And this is the second phase of the admissions process. So it means like if you get through the first phase, then you'll be you'll be invited to the second phase for the group interview. Not everyone is invited to the group interview. And then financial aid. So you notice our program is not an inexpensive program, but there is a lot that you're getting when you're here. And what's available. So if you want to have questions about financial aid, you want to go through the financial aid department. There's some graduate grants. There's some school grants through CFA, some graduate assistantships. So graduate assistantships are just work. They're usually about 10, 12 hours a week that you're given and you work, and they're all over the campus in different departments. In fact, we have a few that are within the communication and fine arts department in the studios there, the art studios there, in the galleries. And it's been beneficial to have some of our students located in those assistantships. Some of our students work in other departments as part of their assistantships. And it's been great because, again, we want to be interdisciplinary as well and work in different departments and collaborate in different departments so our students are able to do that. CAMT, that means California Marriage and Family Therapy. That's a professional association. And then ADA is our American Art Therapy Association. Again, it's a professional association. They do offer scholarships as well. So you may want to look those up and apply if they're offered. And you can apply before. Then they offer some scholarships for current students as well. And then there's different department awards. I won't read through all of those, but those are available, and you can read through that there. And then if you want information, you can talk to Jennifer Bond. She's Assistant Director of Graduate Program Student Scholarship and Financial Aid. Her information is there. And also Maria Flores is usually, she's a scholarship manager, is usually available to assist as well. So you want to go through financial aid office to get more information about tuition, cost, and assistance. And then the other unique thing about our school here at LMU is that you get a lot of campus support. There's a lot of programs, a lot of free programs and services available to our students here. And you can see some of them listed up on the slide, even going through our library. The people who work through our library and different services that are provided, they live to be there for our students. So don't hesitate to ask questions, to see what's out there, individual needs. There's a lot of different things that are available on campus to you as students. So you want to take advantage of that while you're there, or think about that as maybe you're comparing different schools or programs, what's available to you once you're here to support you in staying here and staying well, and having as many opportunities as possible, and to enhance your experience here while you're going through the program. And one thing, just going back, I won't go back in the slide, but just to share as well too, when I was talking about financial aid, it's also worth noting, and again, this can always change. There are sometimes some loan forgiveness programs available. We'll just wait and see if those are still available by the time you're in the program. But also many of our students, I wanted to note, become eligible for and are awarded different fellowships and scholarships while they're here to assist them even after graduation. Actually, in the past few years, quite a few of our students in these statewide scholarships and awards and fellowships have actually been awarded them straight from our department. So I think that was worth saying, or worth letting you know about that, about these statewide scholarships that our students are getting. And now we're here back to professional organizations. So what does support look like while you're here and even after you graduate, what's the community and resources that you have. These are some of our professional organizations. Again, there's the American Art Therapy Association. You can go there now for more information about what art therapy looks like in the world. Then our local chapter is the Southern California Art Therapy Association. And then for the MFT, we have the California Association of Marital and Family Therapy. And as I mentioned earlier, ADA, the American Art Therapy Association, just had their conference here about a week ago. And many of our faculty and students both participated as presenters. And then another key component is jobs. I go through this. What does employment look like once I graduate? Part of the reason why, so our cohorts are about 22 students, so we have a small department here, small amount of students, and part of the reason why we accept so few students is that we also want to make sure we are accepting a number of students that we can also make sure are employed after they graduate from here. So when we recently polled our most recent graduates, and not everyone responded, but of those who responded, 86% of them are already employed within 6 months post-graduation. And the other 14% that haven't been employed, they haven't been looking yet for a job. So it's by choice. And some people don't look right away for many different reasons. Some choose to do other things or travel. Some may have other like life circumstances or things that they need to, that are taking priority in their lives. And so they decide not to take a job right away is usually the reason. Here, I mentioned again, I was talking about social media, another way to stay in contact with us or just to know what we're doing. And we made it. All right. So I am going to move from the slides and see if we have any questions. I didn't get any notes about questions in the chat about the information I shared, but maybe there's individual questions.
Yes, hi, I had a question.
Okay, just one moment. Let's see. Can we, do we stop recording while we ask it for the question part of the session?
I'll keep it recording as long as they're not personal questions. If anyone has like a very personal specific question, can we wait till the very end for that? If anyone has any general questions, because I know a lot of people who've emailed and wanted the recording have been like, I have specific questions about things I'm hoping other people have questions about too. So if you do have like a case by case question, if you could just wait until I stop the recording, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Are there any general questions right now? Okay, I see Rita. Forgive me
Yes,
if
I had a general question.
Wait, I'm not sure who that came from. I see Coulter had a hand up.
Oh,
you can go ahead and take yourself off mute. Yeah, and I apologize if somebody else was speaking first. This is the first one that I saw, so I'll try to get around.
Apologies.
Yes.
I think a few people reached out at the same time. Hello, it's nice to meet you. It's good. I saw Anthony last year, so it's nice to see who's running things now. That's very cool. And I'm excited to be applying because I've been doing it, stuff for about 2 years now. I'm very close to the end. And I was just wondering about, this may be a question for Lori, but how strict is the definition of a studio art class? For example, right now I'm taking a digital design class about Adobe Illustrator where we're producing art, but it's not necessarily studio art. It's not necessarily the kind of art you would imagine in a therapeutic context. What would you say to that?
So for that, I would say the best thing to do is to email us with the course description, because yes, we actually do use digital art sometimes with clients too. So it's not that, but just to, instead of, I'd be more comfortable versus saying right now, yes, that's approved, versus to go ahead and just send that course description via email and have us take a look at it and let you know whether or not that would be accepted.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. But it's
Thank you
not a
so
rule out
much.
just because it's a digital. I do want to say that it's not a rule out just because, I mean, it's not ruled out because it's a digital art course. It's
Right.
just I feel more comfortable looking at it versus answering in this space, giving you a yes or no to that without knowing more.
I figured it was better safe than sorry. I just thought I'd ask while I'm here.
No, I'm glad you asked because I want to make sure
Yeah.
people know there are other things included in studio art. So yes, don't count it out. Please just send it and ask us.
All right. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Audrey, I saw you next.
Yes, thank you. What a lovely presentation. It's so well attended. I had no idea there was so much interest in art therapy.
Yes, thank you for noting that. This is exciting.
Yeah, it started at 75. There's 58 now, but I'm actually writing a paper on this as well as because of my interest in your art therapy program. I'm completing a bachelor's degree and I'm very excited that you offer this. It's a general question. How many units? You went through all the coursework and it was very thorough. I saw the tuition per unit, so I'm just trying to calculate. How many units is this collectively?
You know, I do not have that number offhand, and I knew somebody was going to ask. I'll have to go back and maybe, I don't know, Marissa, you can even go through the website and look for me
60.
and we can get that back to you.
Very good.
60?
Lavinia, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
Oh, there you have our chair right there. Thank you. Was there another question, Audrey?
No, I'm good. I'm going to listen. Okay. I'm going to wait till you post this because I missed the first 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you for asking that.
Of course.
And thank you, Dr. Jackson, for answering it. Sierra.
Hi. I had a general question because I'm going to start my journey on the application, but I had to take the psychology classes first.
Yes.
I did see that you required the abnormal and the lifespan courses as part of it.
Yes.
Do you recommend that we take like classes that we wouldn't necessarily get to take through your program then for the other ones, like just to diversify our education, or should we keep it within the whole marital family aspect?
Well, the courses that you'll be taking as prerequisites won't be marital and family therapy courses anyway. That's usually reserved for, at least the things I'm thinking about that you might be referring to are reserved for your graduate studies, specifically in marriage and family therapy. But there might be other things about like adult psychology or couples or things like that, yes, you can take.
Yeah. So it wouldn't matter if I took like a course in women's psychology or anything like that would still be okay, or?
It could. If you have any, again, for everyone, if you're questioning something, the easiest thing is to send that course description into us so then you can get like the final and complete approval or not of that course if there's something that you're questioning.
Right.
Especially before you go through and take it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
And then Michaela, actually, I said you had your hand up earlier and I missed you.
Yes. Hi. I just had a question about the recorded interview you were saying.
Yes.
So for the recorded interview, are there prompt questions that we have to answer, or how does that go?
Yes. When you go through that online, you should see a list of questions that we're asking you to speak to and respond to in your online interview. So there will be a few prompts available to you.
Okay. And then, thank you. And then another question I had was, I noticed that I didn't hear mentions of like elders with disabilities. Is that a part of art therapy as well, working like with elders, seniors, or people that have physical disabilities as well in art therapy?
Yeah. Yes, it is. And you'll probably, there's an aging and older adult course that you take, and I believe there's a fieldwork component attached with that too. So that's where you can talk a little bit more with that. But yes, art therapy is used there as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I also
wanted to say, go ahead, Marissa.
I was just saying that my practicum placement is going to be at a senior care facility. So yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Sorry, it froze for me. So I think that you probably answered that. Perfect. The only thing I was going to add to that is, that you made me think about, Michaela, is that also as you come into the program and with your specific areas of interest, we appreciate that input too. So maybe if there's something that we haven't thought about yet or isn't available, an opportunity, that doesn't mean it can't be created. Because it's a lot of times from students sharing their personal interests that opportunities get created as well too. Or if there's something that hasn't been covered. Let's see. Miranda?
Hi. I'm pretty sure this is general enough, but I already have like those psychology prerequisites, but I was wondering if it was fine because my major is human services. So I just wanted to make sure that was okay because I'm human services and art.
I'm sorry, Miranda, I didn't catch the first part of your question. Do you mind repeating it?
Oh, no problem. I was just saying that I wasn't sure if this was general enough, but I already have like the abnormal psych and the other psych classes that you had mentioned, but I wanted to
The
make sure
developmental
that,
psych?
yes, I wanted to make sure that having a major in human services was fine because it's not necessarily psychology, but it's counseling and human services.
Okay, I'm going to answer that in this way because it might be two separate questions, and I want to make sure that other people don't get confused.
Okay.
So whatever, and let me know if I'm not answering your question. So what your bachelor's degree is in does not have to be in psychology. So that can be in something else. You just need to have completed a bachelor's degree and show a transcript for that. But as far as like just the psychology prerequisites, because some people may have a bachelor's degree in something else, and then this is the first time they're taking the psychology courses. Just want to make the distinction between the two. So the psychology courses can be in other areas of psychology as long as you have at least those two that are one in developmental psychology and the other one that's in abnormal psychology. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just want to make sure the prerequisites aren't necessarily have to be attached to what you got your bachelor's degree in. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then, let's see, is it Aleka or Alika Papaya?
Yes, it's Aleka. It's
Aleka, yes.
My last name is not Papaya. It's Peterson, Aleka Peterson. Hi, and my camera's broken. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
My general question is about your practicum hours that
Yes.
Marissa has kindly told us that they go towards licensure hours, the 3,000
Yes.
hours. Do you know how many practicum hours are completed by the time you're done with the program? And also if you can take more of those while you're in the program to complete more hours if you wish.
I don't have that number for you. I can get that for you if you wanted to email me, and we can check in with the practicum coordinator as far as like how many hours minimum are required before you graduate. And then once you graduate for the MFT, you'll have to gain 3,000 more hours. For the art therapy registration, you have to gain 1,000 extra hours post-graduation, but the number of hours pre-graduation, I actually don't have that number ready for you, but if you email me, I can give you the exact number. Okay. As far as doing more than those hours, it really depends on your placement. Some people do graduate with more than the minimum amount of hours, depending on where they're placed and the availability of hours. But that one's kind of hard to say, but you wouldn't be, I just want to make sure this is clear too. The hours you're getting are at the practicum placement that we assign you to. You wouldn't be able to get hours like somewhere else. Like, you wouldn't be going to get your own practicum or something to add to those hours because those aren't approved by us and we can't guarantee the supervision at other placements. So you'd only be getting hours at whatever work site that has been approved by our department.
Okay.
Does that answer? Okay.
Yes, generally, and I'll ask further questions as we get closer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Rebecca?
Really quick.
Oh, no, Marissa.
Yes, I actually got some information from Kathleen. So it is like those 3
Oh,
hours,
thank you.
1,000 hours that are needed for licensure. That usually takes about 2 to 4 years post-grad. And ideally, you would get around 840 hours before graduation. So
Thank
it's
you.
like about a third.
Thank you. And then I think I called on Rebecca, maybe, and then Erica. Rebecca? Oh.
Hi, yes. I'm wondering if we have the opportunity to specialize in a particular area. So for me, like I'm very interested in being working more with people with specific disorders and being more like trauma informed. Is that something that there's an opportunity for?
There's no specialization in the program per se, like there's no special track or anything you can do. Those would be more, if you have a specific interest, that'll be more things that you pursue maybe through talking to other faculty who might be also working in that particular area, particular, group of people, or help, coordinate those connections with you. There are additional readings and things you might be able to do. Or again, too, talk about those interests, and there might be other avenues to bring some of that information into the program in a variety of ways, but it's not like you come into the program and specify a certain track or something or specialization, and then that's kind of set up for you. I'm not sure. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, like for example, for the practicum, and I can't say offhand without more specifics, is there a practicum where that would meet your specific need? But that might be a place where then you would talk to Kathleen, our practicum coordinator, about your specific interest. And if there's something available in that area, or at least, can approximate it, that might be a way to get that experience for yourself. Or again, during the research part, maybe that might be another way too. Or creating new field studies could be another opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Erica?
Yes. Hi. So I just wanted to know the acceptance rate and ratio. I know somebody answered it in the chat. It's you guys are expecting like 20 to 25, but is there a ratio you can give us?
You mean as far as like how many applicants and how?
Yes.
So, I mean, the number of applicants varies each year. I mean, as you can see here, this year, there's a lot of interest in the program. How much of this turns into actual people submitting their applications, it's hard to say, but there is a lot of interest. So I don't know if I could answer that directly, other than of all those applications, yes, between 22 and 25 students on average are actually accepted. And that's mostly because that's the amount of students for our department that we're able to handle and give the quality of education. And again, we were also talking about connecting that to employability as well too. Those kind of factors.
Okay, and I have one more. So my concern is GPA. I don't meet the 3.0 requirement. So would it affect and would it play like a big role in admission process, or can I just like work on something else that I can like make it up somehow?
No, great question. Like I said earlier, different things happen at different parts of our lives, and it could be a lot of different reasons why, our GPAs are not as high as like we're asking for right now. That's not a deterrent. That's why we have all these other pieces to the application. You have your autobiography, and if you think it's helpful to explain what was going on at that time in your autobiography, you can include it in that. But again, most importantly, we want to know other things about you, about what's going on right now as you're applying. Who you are now is really important. So you have the autobiography, you have the interview, and you also have your portfolio. All those things count just as much. So don't let that be a deterrent if your GPA is not as high as you would hope. And we mentioned too, even though the GRE isn't required, if you're really concerned and you choose to take that to show something, that's an option for you as well. But you do have other pieces of your application that we also look at as well too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Elizabeth and then Catherine.
Hi, I just had emailed you, or I had emailed Lori, and I think she forwarded it to you about my psych prerequisites that I have like 43 quarter units, but they're 10 years old in psych. And then I'm taking the 2 specific classes in the spring. So I'm just wondering if I'll find out about the approval on that from you before I submit the application or not.
So yeah, so if you have already contacted Lori about that, yes, we'll get that answer to you before submitting your application. Okay. And if you do not hear something in the next few days, please just contact us again. Don't let it go.
Okay, yeah, I already sent my transcripts as well, so.
Okay, perfect. I'm just saying, I don't mind a gentle reminder if you haven't heard something. Please don't wait until the 20th and be like, what happened? It's okay to reach out again if you haven't heard something, because it may have been missed. Yes. And then Catherine.
Hello. My question's about letters of recommendation. I was wondering can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. I was wondering what types of information you're looking for that are most helpful in a letter of recommendation.
Let's see. I mean, you really just want someone who can speak on your behalf as a candidate for this type of program. So I would recommend whoever you're asking for the recommendation letter for, that they actually know what you're applying to. And it seems kind of obvious, but sometimes it's a miss for people. You want the person you're asking to write on your behalf to be able to recommend you to this specific type of program. So it should be someone that at least knows your interests, maybe has had some kind of interaction, or it doesn't have to be necessarily that you've worked with them or, another professor or something like that, but someone who can speak to in the way that they know you. They could say, I think this person would be a good candidate to be considered for an art therapy program, for a marriage and family therapy, art therapy program, and this is why. You just want to make sure that person can say that about you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think I called on someone, now I don't remember who it was. Let's go for Miriam.
Hi, my question is, I have been out of school for many, many years, and I have been in the workforce. Have you had students who are on the older side, who are not fresh out of school, but are coming back to school and reconsidering their career choices after being out of academia for a while?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked that question. Yes, yes, and yes. What each new class looks like varies, and so, depending on the applicants at that time and things like that. But yes, we do have students who have been working for a long time, who haven't been to school in a while. Yes, please apply, because that's part of the diversity of our program. We need that perspective too. It's wanted, desired, encouraged. So yes, yes, yes. Mary, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. So, and that's not a factor that it would be a minus sign on your application that doesn't count against an applicant who's a little older.
Oh, no, not at all. The only difference that it makes is in terms of if you may have to take, if you've been out of school for a while, you may just have to go back and take some of those courses so that they're within those 5 years. That's the only difference that it makes. And that would be for anyone, All
right. Yeah, great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. And then, okay. I may mispronounce it, but is it Ziyu?
Hi,
It was a great presentation. Thank you so much. I
Oh.
just have a question because I'm from a fine arts background. I have a BFA in arts, and I'm just not very confident on the psychology side because although I'm very interested in psychology and I read a lot of books on like outside of school.
Yes.
I'm working on the prerequisite right now. So I'm just a little worried, and I just want to ask, what are you looking for in terms of all the material?
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think it's just some concern that because you don't come from a psychology background, that might make you somehow look different as a candidate to the program. No, that's why we have the prerequisites. Because again, the students come into the program, some do come from a psychology background, some do come from fine arts, but that part's not required your career or educational history, up until now. That's why we have the prerequisites. So as long as you take those prerequisites that require in psychology, even if you're taking them now for the first time, it's fine. As long as they're completed for a grade from an accredited institution, you are fine. It doesn't matter if you just took them in the past year or you took had a degree in it already. As long as they meet those requirements for admission, you are fine. You don't have to have had a background before you took the prerequisites. That's okay.
Thank you. And also, I'm not sure what kind of art portfolio are you looking for? Like what area? So should I just include whatever I have, like all the material I'm comfortable using? Do you want to see a variety, or you want to see how much expert I am in some specific area?
Okay, so we want to know, so your images that you're selecting for the portfolio, yes, we want to see a variety of media. So, and why I say that is because some people may see themselves as painters, right? We don't want to see a portfolio that's only paintings. We want to see you using other materials, but it doesn't have to be 10 different materials, but we want to see a variety of different media materials that you're using. And again, it's not looking for like who has the best sculpture or who has the best sketch. It's not that per se. As long as we can see you feel comfortable using that material, that's fine. And most importantly is the statement about one of the images you select. We want to know how you use your art. How do you think about your art? How do you talk about your art is really what we want to see. So again, we just want to see some visual representation of your experience with different art materials, not necessarily that you even came from a fine arts background, because some people don't. But as long as they meet those prerequisites, they're fine.
Okay. And would you have any examples to show us of the portfolio or the autobiography?
No, we don't have examples to share.
Okay. And also I saw in the chat earlier, there was a person asking if their makeup professional skills could be in the portfolio. Sorry, I just wanted to mention this because that person said they couldn't talk.
Oh, are we talking about like cosmetic makeup or professional? Is that what we're talking about?
Let me find it in chat.
So it says, I was wondering if professional special makeup effects photos of my own work would be acceptable for the art portfolio. I have a background in makeup for film and TV and certification from an accredited makeup school, on top of a BA in communications from CLU. I consider makeup as an art form, so I have found it to be a therapeutic process for not only myself, but for clients. It is a form of artistic expression in my eyes. I just wanted to make sure that this is an acceptable art form to submit to my portfolio. And then additionally, is it acceptable to get recommendation from my therapist? And someone said the same thing for like a life coach for recommendations.
That you may have to email me individually to respond to about that. You really want to look more for like a professional type reference or recommendation, but I'd be willing to answer that via email, that specific question. And then as far as the makeup, yes, I agree with what you said about that. but also I would maybe have that be one of the images, but you do want to show some more studio art type images in your portfolio. But if that's one of them, please include it. And if you have questions about that and want to just talk about that more completely, please email me about that too for a more expanded response. That's a very specific question, but I like that question. Just haven't thought about it before.
Thank you so much. I finished all my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that question because it's an important one, that last one. And then I know we maybe have time for one more question. I just see one more hand up. Erica? Oh, your hand just might be still up from the last time. Erica, do you have another question?
Oh, no, I don't think I didn't put down my
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
But thank you.
I have a question if there's time.
Yes, and then I realized I did not show the last slide for what's the next session at 6 o'clock, so I can go back and show that. That is there.
I can just give an announcement. So after this at 6 p.m., so in 2 minutes, we do have the financial aid session, which is hosted by Miss Jennifer Bond and Maria Flores. So the two people that we've talked about will be in there answering all your questions.
Yes, that's an important session. You want to make it to that. Thank you. And I apologize. I had the slide. I just realized I did not show that. So thank you for the announcement because you don't want to miss that. And wait, I forget who had the last question. Oh, let's see, Jessica. And then if we have time, Ilana, I think is what it says. Jessica?
Hi. Okay. So I was curious, does it need to be all 10 photos or can we put like 7? Or does it have to be like the full amount?
It should be whatever the amount is that's listed on there. So if it says 10, it has to be the full 10 images, not less than 10.
Okay. And then I have one other question of just if you can start working to some degree after you graduate, or do you need to finish all hours first?
Oh, okay. So when we say postgraduate, let's say, for example, for the MFT, the 3,000 hours, those are your working hours. So yes, you are applying for a job. As long as those hours while you're working are supervised, they count. So we're not talking about another free internship or anything like that. Those are your working hours that count. Thank you for asking that.
Cool.
Yeah,
thank you.
You are actually working and getting paid, hopefully, at that time. Ilana, we'll see, we'll do it in under 60 seconds, Ilana.
Sorry, I was muted. I just have a super quick question. Is there any benefit to submitting more than 2 letters of recommendation?
I don't know necessarily there's a benefit if you feel like you have, I mean, if you want to submit the third one, you can, but really all you need is 2 strong ones is what I would say. I don't think the third one is going to make it better because if the other 2 are not strong, maybe you should just eliminate one.
Okay.
So as long as, so think of it that way. You just want 2 really strong ones. More isn't going to necessarily make it better.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. I think we are complete. We started late, but we made it on time. I really, really appreciate everyone's patience, everyone that assisted with this evening. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Marissa. And have fun exploring all of this. This is an exciting time for this, and you have our email, can contact us for more questions if they weren't answered this evening. I welcome them. I really appreciate you being here this evening.